Yo, what's up everybody? So today we're going to talk about the updated tier list for Eternal Return Black Survival. This is going to be only focusing on solos. If you want, I get this comment a lot. If you guys want to see me talking about teams, duos and squads, I'll be more than happy to talk about that in a future video. Just leave me a comment down below to know that you guys are interested in that. Could also hit the like button, helps me out. Tells me you guys probably want to see that content in the future and you guys like this form of content. But with that being said, let's talk about the tier list. Okay, so let's go into ordering here. So S tier, this is pretty much you have every option available possible. You have good routing, you have a ton of agency in fights, you're very safe as a character, you are just the whole package of a character. You have everything you ever want. Your character is probably insane. Well, is insane. A plus, just a little bit weaker than A. Or a little bit weaker than S. You are not you're missing something. Like maybe your character just has a scaling issue, maybe you're not a strong early game, maybe you don't scale as well, but you have really good routing, you're very safe, stuff like that. A tier, missing something from A plus. Maybe you're not as safe, maybe you're not as strong throughout the game as characters in the tier above, so on and so forth. B tier is like you're really good in one area, but your other areas kind of fall flat. And then C tier is like, okay, this character or weapon type is okay, but there's probably something else that we could play that falls under a very similar playstyle / weapon that would just do it better. And then D tier is just don't play this character, avoid it. It's probably not going to do too good. All right, with that being said, let's get into it. So Jackie. So Dagger Jackie is, well, Jackie in general has kind of been coming out as more of a rat character recently. Sadly, she's not as much of a skirmisher as she used to be, and I actually talk about this in a future video that's going to be coming out with the best Jackie on NA with Shoichi. We're going to be coming that really soon, so if you're interested in that, make sure to sub to the channel. Will help me out a lot, and you'll get notifications on when that goes live, so it can teach you how to play Jackie. But yeah, Jackie is interesting. First of all, Dagger is going to be the best weapon skill on her possible. It's very, very safe. You have a lot of options towards it. This kind of leads into like certain build / play styles that will allow you to abuse the innate damage from Dagger skill and just be building pure crit. So that's kind of a build we've been seeing a lot in ladder. It's a very popular one, albeit a very boring one. It is very safe. So it does have pretty good routing. It is a very strong weapon type. You have good transitional items. It's just a good build overall if you want to play Dagger Jackie. So highly recommend that one. Axe Jackie, it's C tier. Let's be quite honest with ourselves, it's not that great. It is definitely the type of weapon you go and you're like, okay, well, one, you don't really have a weapon skill. It's on a minute-long cooldown, and your whole idea is just to kill people early. And if you're not able to do that, you don't really have a scaling. You don't have transitional pieces. You're very weak. So Axe Jackie does go down into C tier. Two-handed Jackie, you're gonna kind of hate me. It's kind of just B tier. It excels in like one area, which is just it can farm really well late, and it's still Jackie, and you have like the potential to scale very strong. It's just not very good. Parry's a very fine active for that, but you're gonna notice you're gonna have a really hard time trying to kill people, and you're gonna have a really hard time like really securing kills. All you can do is just run away and use parry for like in combat fights, but if you do get the scaling, you have the mastery for it, yeah, it hits. It's really hard. You do have the transitional pieces very similar to Dagger Jackie, so it does have the options to it, but overall not too great. Wouldn't really recommend it. It is just kind of okay. Not bad enough to be C tier, not good enough to be A tier. It's just okay. Dual swords, kind of similar. It pretty much mitigates half the cast, which is melees, but it dies for the other half of the cast, which is range characters. So it's probably the most coin flippy weapon / playstyle you could really play, but it did have options open up to it very recently, which led it to being stuff like Star Steel Twin Swords. The meteorite drops now drop on the map occasionally, guarantees her to be able to make her transitional weapon very early on into the game, which just helps her propel her snowball. But again, it falls flat to the range characters when that happens, to range matchups regardless of what happens throughout the match. So it's just kind of okay. The routing overall is fine for it. It's never really been a struggle, but you are kind of stuck into a couple zones, so you don't really have a lot of flexibility. But yeah, that's Jackie. Aya. Aya has kind of been picking up a little bit as the new legendary weapon Agni has been introduced to the game, and it's been performing pretty dang well. It hasn't been doing too bad at all, but it's still Aya. By going Aya, what you do is say, hey, I'm not doing any early game or mid game, but my late game is God. If I survive to late game, I can kill anybody, but my chase is terrible. I don't really have a lot of agency in fights. I can never really be behind. All I can do is kind of be standing still, be a turret, shoot somebody, and hope that I can kill them. So for that reason, it's kind of just B tier. It's very similar to the other weapons that we just mentioned. Pistol Eye, on the other hand, is A+, if not S tier. I'm not sure where to put it right now. So the build I am mostly referring to is the Elegance EOD suit, really tanky, like 3-zone Aya build that's been going around the ladder. For one, it's not very contested. For two, Ayas get to play like psychopaths. They are some of the safest characters in the game, if not the safest, when they have pistol skill online. With her dash or E, with moving reload, the reset skill of pistol, you get to dash twice in a fight, you have a root on your ultimate on the man, and you pretty much have your W's, making it so that nobody can really chase you effectively. This character is super safe, and her early game damage is obscene because of how fast you build everything. This character has transitional pieces, you have good routing, you have everything to you. The only thing that's kind of hard, it is going to be hard to pick up kills after the mid/late game portion of the game, so it does become a bit of an issue. Aside from that, this character is insane. If you want to play her, you're doing a good service to yourself. Just make sure to play pistol. That's all I can really tell you. Sniper Aya, sadly, is I really just want to say it's D tier. It's not good. Nobody has proved to be able to do good of it. It hasn't done good on any solo ladder on any server. It's just bad. You're kind of giving up your 2 good weapon skills, pistol skill or the assault rifle skill for sniper skill, which is situationally good, but it's not really needed. All you're getting is an early game griefing build with very static routing, and people already know if they see you zone 1 with a sniper, they're just gonna avoid your power spike zone 2. So a lot of time people are gonna run into you. And a lot of the high tier characters are just gonna run away from you. You don't have good scaling, you don't really have good transitional pieces. It's just, I would not take it into a ranked environment. It's pretty bad. It's mostly a for fun build. Glove Hyunwoo, A+. So very similar to what we just mentioned of Aya. Very safe, has a lot of early dueling potential, amazing transitional pieces. Glove scaling has always been absolutely insane, and that has not changed at all. Hyun is one heck of a character to be playing right now. He is very linear, very straightforward in how you do play him, but you can definitely optimize your routes. One thing that Hyun has that a lot of characters don't have is so many options. This character's options are insanely strong in terms of its routing. So if you don't have to be stuck on one route every game, you can have like 5 or 6. Like the best Korean Hyuns have like 3-4 routes, I swear I see them go, and their build is always different in the end game. Hyunwoo is a character of flexibility, and if you're playing Glove right now and you take a tweak, I don't know what to tell you. Glove skill alone can single-handedly carry this character. It is that strong, and his early game is so strong it really can't be contested, and if he gets behind, he can just kind of walk away from most people. So he's a very strong pick. Highly recommend him. But with Tonfa, it's actually not as bad anymore. Tonfa, for one, the damage of the reflex skill has been buffed. 2, routing, really good. You have a lot of options in terms of routing. And 3, you're kind of just a pure tank. Playing as a pure tank, really the playstyle you're going for is you're just running around and beating people up with Hyun's really high base damage. And aside from that, you're kind of just building traps and just trying to rat out to the late game. You're not as much of a brawler as, say, Glove Hyun, because you don't care about mastery as much, but you play more as a defensive, like, tanky playstyle. It's very strong and was performing quite well on the ladder. Okay, so Magnus, Hammer Magnus. It's just kind of B tier. It's okay. It's not as bad as, say, anything you see below it. The main thing about Magnus is, one, he's such a strong rat. It's always going to be harder to drop him below B tier, even if literally nobody's playing Hammer Magnus. But what you can do is you go like regen stall builds, you go very tanky builds, and just run away for final zone and just time people out in the final area. It is a lot harder to do now with the zone changes, but if you have enough traps, I'm sure you can force anybody out of your zone if you're just kind of a giant wall. So Hammer Magnus, still okay pick. Really takes a certain type of mindset / playstyle to get to do it, but it's not the greatest. It's just okay. Bad Magnus, on the other hand, is quite strong. We've been seeing routing coming out from people like Magnus Ape, people like Skaz. They've been playing a ton of Bat Magnus with a 3-zone build from Factory Chapel Forest, or the reverse Forest Chapel Factory, building Spy Umbrella, White Crane Fan, and the new Tachyon Brace, giving Magnus one of the characters who has the highest base movement speeds in the game, even more movement speed, so it makes it really hard to chase him if you already have poor chase. And 2, he's already incredibly safe, and now he's even deadlier to boot, especially in tandem with the bat skill buffs that happened not too long ago. This really makes him one heck of a threat. If he gets a stun on you on a wall, he could stun you, throw a Q, bat skill you, that applies another stun and a ton of damage, and then get some ticks of his 17v1 this W, and then throw a bike at you, and you're just dead. It's gonna kill most people in the early mid-game phases of the game, and if he catches you while behind, he could kill you really easy. And if he's behind, he could just bike away. So really safe character, not bad at all. Issue is that his routing is kind of static. You can do certain things with the routing, but it's just not as strong as other things. Also, his scaling isn't the best. So he does have some issues in that regard, and he does have some poor matchups into some of the characters he would be power spiking into regardless. So it is definitely not the easiest to play properly. You're gonna have to play very safe, but he is still good overall. Fiora. So Fiora does have 3 weapons, and they all actually play very different, and they're on different levels of power right now. And from least powerful to strongest, we have two-handed. There's not really a lot to say here. There's pretty much no reason I would ever play two-handed Fiora over anything else. I don't have a lot to say. It hasn't changed from the last few patches. It's only gotten weaker. Yeah, don't play two-handed Fiora. It's not very good. Spear. Spear is okay. You really only have one option in terms of spear, which is Nadine, and you're kind of stuck on a 3-zone crit build. If your people run into you and feed you, yeah, it's okay. Spear does give you one thing that the next weapon won't, which is Rapier. It gives you a defensive option in your kit. Spear skill is a pretty big slow / a knockback depending on the range you hit them on, but you're one stuck on the very linear routing. 2, you really need your transitional pieces to become very strong, and 3, you need to get kills. You really need a lot of mastery to become really strong, and you're also going to be ending up missing out on what's it called, the Rapier skill, which allows you to start your combo effectively. So without Rapier skill, it really hurts to be playing Fiora right now, and that of course leads us into Fiora, which is just A tier. Really strong, decent routing. You are stuck into a couple zones because you do need cards, but for the most part those zones aren't as contested as usual. At least one or the other is usually pretty open. And you do have some reroutes potentials with your rapiers, because it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You want to transition out of the main rapier that you're on. Doesn't matter if you're on Voltaclero, doesn't matter if you're on Durano. You want to end up on a Meteor Claymore or a Joyce by the end of the game. And now with some recent changes, that makes it so if you have enough cooldown reduction, you could get a full combo reset on your W if you proc your passive. It's got much stronger and much faster than before. So Fiora, not looking too bad at all, at least for Rapier. Nadine is interesting. So I personally think, and there's not a lot of Nadines on the server, but this is my personal take on Nadine right now. Bow Nadine is A tier. It's still okay. And I think the biggest takeaway here is that it has different routing than Crossbow, but effectively doing the same thing that Crossbow does anyways. But the main issue is that it loses its escape tool against melees, which hurts a lot. Nadine's a relatively squishy character, and if, let's say, a Fiora jumps on you, not having Crossbow skill to back you up is going to hurt a lot, and having Bow, while nice, doesn't really do enough for you. So that's why I say I think Crossbow is A+, while I think Bow is A. It just loses a little more of that flexibility that you have from Crossbow, especially when somebody like a very strong melee character just pounces on you. There's not a whole lot you can really do. So I personally say go Crossbow. I think like the Gobu Ballista build is really strong. I posted a video on that not too long ago. You guys could check it out. I give a really good explanation about that. That could help you out quite a bit. Zahir. Okay, so I feel like I had to say this every patch. Zahir is good. Zahir has been good. Zahir is not going to stop being good anytime soon. He hasn't been touched. He's only gotten indirect buffs over time. So it doesn't really matter what style of Zahir you're playing, he is always just going to be A tier. I think Throw is going to always be better than Shuriken, but Caltrops is still a very effective tool. It does help you in some matchups, and unironically, it just helps you in the same matchups that Throw skill helps you out with anyways. The difference is that Throw gives you a ton of stats. Rudimian Marble, while harder to build, does give you a ton of stats to help you out throughout the game. Makes your scaling insane, but does make your routing a little worse. But Zahir is already a relatively safe character anyways. Shuriken, on the other hand, while not bad for bursting someone down, it actually has really safe routing. Shurikens are usually really easy to build, and you have transitional pieces to it. You could go into Certus on a late game, which is perfectly fine. You just kind of lose that mid-game spike that a throw Zahir would have if you just go Ruthenian Marble instead. But overall, really safe character, ton of damage, a lot of chase potential if you're landing your stuff, and a lot of kiting potential if you're able to land your stuff as well. It really just determines whether or not you're landing his kit. His kit is just all skill shots. Hart. So I'm not going to put guitar up here. What we're actually going to put up here is the different ones, which is Enad and Amp Hart. So if you don't know, this is the evolutions. This is the evolution for Enad, which is extra normal auto attack damage, and skill amp. All right, let's talk about Hart. Hart has been one of the strongest characters in the game for a while now. Her routing is super safe and super fast. Her damage is obscene, and she has an insane slow on her Q on a 4-second cooldown. She has triple dashes on her E. She has her ultimate, which resets a fight for free, and she has a charm on her weapon skill. Pretty much all of these either give her A, in combat mobility, B, CC to chase people down, or the 3B, C, what am I saying? Or C, the way to reset a fight for free. No other character in the game can really compete with what this character does right now. Downside, her really only downside is that she can get burst down, and you have to pilot her properly. You really do need to respect your opponents. You kind of can't just psychopath your way into just fighting people for free, unless it's early game. If it's early game, you can psychopath it. But yeah, this character really safe, super strong, easily one of the best characters in the game. If you haven't played Hard already and you haven't just seen what this character could do, I recommend it. She's crazy good, and there were people performing insane with her towards the end of season 1 and are still doing insanely well for her. She's just so consistent. Now let's talk about our boy Isol. So again, Agni AR did buff him quite a bit. I would still need some time to tell where it is in terms of how strong it is, but I do think with the new AR, with how much attack power it has, and not actually not for an Agni, I'm talking to type 85, I believe it's called, type 75, something like that. Isol can abuse that early game to transition into an Agni late game. I don't think it's that hard to do, since a lot of Agni's components are random materials around the map that you can farm off mobs anyways. So I think Isol actually likes going a type 85 into a transitional build early game, and especially with the buffs to Blazing Dress, he's looking pretty nice just going like a 3-zone force hotel build, get that tree, get a Blazing Dress, and just go at it. So overall, I think AR Isol is potentially A tier, and the difference between him and say AR Aya is actually just the fact that Isol can chase. Isol's kiting is really good. If he lands his Semtex bomb on you, or he has an ult prepped, or he has his Rebel Assault down, he can chase you down forever. And his early game damage after he builds a weapon is, well, if he lands a Semtex bomb on you, you're just kind of dead. So yeah, Isol has the potential of just being really strong with AR with this upcoming season. So I'm excited to see where he actually ends up. Pistol Isol, on the other hand, it hasn't changed. It's A+, potentially S, but it's probably just A+. Same thing as the Aya. Really good damage, really good kiting. Really tanky if you want to build it that way. And of course, because of his passive, you could just build a ton of traps and drop them in combat for free, creating a massive zoning tool for yourself. So yeah, Isol has always been really strong, just not a very popular pick, especially in NA, but he is definitely one of the safest characters in the game, if not the safest, I want to say, in terms of just raw mobility. It's so hard to kill an Isol if they don't want to die, and if you've ever seen an Isol in a final circle, well, you know you're probably dead anyways, because he can mitigate your traps, he can place his own traps. He's just so dang strong. Dailin. Okay, so this one's a little controversial. Not this one. I think Nunchuck is probably universally agreed on. It's kind of A tier. Doesn't have transitional pieces. Really strong early game. Nunchuck skill is okay. Not too great. Amp Dailin is okay. Not too great either. Just has some decent damage. But crit 3-zone has always been a very popular, hey, I'm running into you. You ran into me. I'm just stronger than you because my build's faster. I'm going to kill you. Amp, kind of similar. I ran into you. I built my stuff really fast. I'm going to kill you now. But I fall off really hard late game. But hey, I picked up a couple kills early game, so it doesn't matter. But Glove, on the other hand, is something that people have been saying that is S tier for quite a while now, and I don't know. I have a hard time saying Glove Dailin's S tier, because the main build for it requires a lot of farming and a lot of playing safe, and it kind of falls into what we mentioned earlier about tiers. So while Dailin rounding is, yes, incredibly safe, yes, she does have some rounding options, the issue is her early game, it's hard to kill people. That's kind of what's going down to. It's hard to kill people, and you can actually still die. Your mobility really comes out from your ultimate, if you're forced to use your ultimate to get out of a fight, well, one, you can't fight anybody anymore. Not for another like 3.5 minutes. That is a massive cooldown to invest for escaping. Two, yeah, if you're able to get a ton of RNG drops, you can transition into a late game that is nearly unstoppable. But you're gonna see why I have her A and another character in S that is very similar. That's kind of my thoughts on Dailin. Very similar to Hyun in that regard, where if you are able to get those transitional pieces, yeah, you're crazy. And Dailin actually uses it better than Hyun. But for the most part, you do still need to get those transitional pieces. Yuki. Alright, two-handed Yuki. This one is kind of another controversial one. I know the Yuki mains would probably be like D tier, unplayable, copium. The Yuki sympathizers are gonna be like C tier, unplayable, copium. He's kind of just A tier, man. Yuki has decent routing options. The problem is you're kind of stuck in a couple things. If you do two-handed, you're stuck on the 20-end plasma sword, which is generally the cemetery hospital dock route, but you are kind of scared of, you know, dying dock. But you end up having some like matchup issues if you aren't able to transition later on to the game, but you have a very strong early game. If you go Erendite, you could potentially kill a bunch of people in factory, but you also need to transition heavily. But you are still one of the safest character in the game because of just how his kit is. It's a very straightforward dash. He has a stun, and once you get your bunch of cooldown reduction and you get the extra range from Dragon's Dobok, it's really hard to chase down a Yuki. Like, nearly impossible. He's so dang strong with it. But the issue that does come down here is if Yuki doesn't snowball, he really kind of struggles. Is what I noticed. Yuki really does need to get a lot of mastery early on, or spend the entire game really just dominating zones and getting a ton of mastery. And he does have some unwinnable matchups, it feels, and we're gonna be talking about those relatively shortly. We think of like stuff like just kiting range characters. So think of like Emma, think stuff like Adriana, think Rozzi. They're really hard. Like, it's super hard to kill those characters as a Yuki if you hold your cards and just wait for him to approach you, because he only has one way of getting to you, which is just walking to your face. So unless he's super ahead, generally these matches are gonna be really hard. Oh, also think like Sissela, Silvia. Like, there are some matches that are really hard, but overall as a character, he's fine and he's doing great. This also puts us into, where is Dual Sword? Oh, here we go. Dual Sword Yuki, it's just B tier. There's really not much to say. It's the same reason that like Amp Dual Sword Jackie is the thing. You build the items, you rampage onto somebody once you mastery 7, and you kill them. Aside from that, it's not really doing a whole lot. Next on the list is Hyejin. Oh boy, so it's gonna be very similar to Yuki. I know, Copium, my character sucks. Copium, this character is awful. Copium, but no, Hyejin is A+. Not S tier for the only reason is that her routing is a little scuffed at times, but she's such a safe character that it's actually like you could just reroute and get your build on top of everything, and sometimes you could just blow people up even when the mastery / level difference is really big just because of the character's innate burst potential. But that is what the character is trying to do. She is a burst mage and she is incredibly strong at doing so, and while behind, she could just fear you, root you, slow you, jump over a wall that you possibly can't get over, and it's really skill. And both skill fits her kit perfectly with farming, adding additional pressure into her combo. The last issue she kind of does have is if she doesn't get those kills early game, her scaling isn't that great. So when that doesn't happen, you're kind of playing for a second place rather than a first. But if your character is good and safe enough to get a second place consistently, you're probably doing something right. Your character's probably in a pretty good place. Shuriken, Hyejin, it doesn't really have that damage, so it's just pretty much everything else. It does have better routing, it has routing alternatives, but the damage is non-existent. Caltrops doesn't really fit her kit at all. She's already incredibly safe against melees, which Caltrops, you know, just poops on at all times. So I think she's kind of okay-ish. You could play it, not too great, wouldn't really recommend it. It's mostly just a ratting playstyle overall. Xiukai is interesting. I think the way it works right now, A is spear, and I think S tier is dagger. I know it's weird. I gotta talk about this. So the only difference between dagger versus spear is just the safety of the build. So once you have dagger skill online for Xiukai, you're able to just run away forever. You build a ton of cooldown reduction, you run away, and you just stack up to become an absolute monster for the late game. That is your whole game plan, and dagger skill just gives you a little bit extra running away potential, so where people, if they try to stick on top of you so you can't dash out because Xiukai can't dash through people, you can just dagger skill out and then dash over a wall and you're relatively safe. Spear, it's very similar, but it's definitely more if you want to play an aggressive early game Xiukai, but they have nerfed that a little bit over time. Well, actually a lot of it over time, so you're kind of forced into a late game playstyle, which Xiukai does excel at. Sissela, oof. You guys ready for the copium? All right, so Shuriken Sissela, A tier, very exact same thing I said for Zahir prior. Good routing, much safer. Shuriken Caltrap here works with her immensely well, but it's very risky. You have to be like low HP, and because of her passive, you gain bonus amplification or skill amplification. And then if you're able to pull someone into Caltraps, they just get one shot. It's possible, it's very good, but it's also very risky, and I personally wouldn't recommend it. But overall, Sissela's kit is still just fine in that regard, to where you don't really need to rely on that janky combo. It's just an extra tool in your kit, and really the only reason to play Shuriken over Throw. Now, Throw Sissela is A tier, A+. If the only reason she is not S tier is because her routing isn't too great. Her routing does take it's slower than every other build on average, but once you get online, it's kind of just nicknamed the Exodia build, where you can just sit there and just take any matchup for free. You can chase people down for a really long time as long as you get the slow auto attack on. Smokescreen makes fighting her impossible in close quarters. If she gets a pull on you with Wilson, you can't really sit there and fight her either, because she's just going to drop Smokescreen on top of you. So super good, super safe. Highly recommend playing this character if you haven't already. She's definitely been slept on for a while in terms of just overall in the community, but the higher levels player know that she's been... It's just like a constant debate of whether or not this character is broken, or my character main equal bad, copium, just Sissela's bad. But no, this character has been performing incredibly well. She's super strong, and she's still just dominating the ladder whenever she gets online. Chiara is interesting. I think she's just kind of an A tier character. Has one of the best 30 party potentials, but she's also just a massive rat. Oh, I am referring to tank builds, by the way. The crit Chiara is definitely like A tier-ish if you can pilot it properly, but it's really difficult, and it requires a ton of micro spacing, and you could just die. So it's probably like B tier on average crit Chiara, but A tier if you get really good at it. But in general, tank Chiara is probably A tier. You still have to build Missile Team, which does suck. It is a pretty slow weapon. But once you get online, how do people kill you? What you land a root, you get to walk away for free. You have your shield online, gives you a ton of stats. You get a slow off. Your ultimate makes it so if you land a root on anybody weaker than you, you can just kill them through base damage alone. So Chiara's just kind of been that massive threat for a really long time now, and I don't know, man. This character has just been absolutely crazy. Just really the only way you play her is just you sit around, you land a root, you third party, you walk away, and rinse and repeat. She's very effective in that regard. Adriana, S tier. I know, crazy. Adriana has been one of the best performing characters on ladder for such a long time. Rank 1 in Korea was Hyunwoo, a Adriana one trick. He did so crazy with this character. We had a few people in NA that were playing Adriana to really good success by the end of the season, and are still, you know, improving their Adriana as we speak. This character has been seeing countless buffs over her time in the game. Incendiary Bomb has received buffs as well, which is her main weapon. She has a ton of transitional pieces, which you may know as a key thing of this tier list is that transitional pieces are being valued very highly. If you have transitional pieces, you are good to go. Aside from that, she pretty much mitigates any melee matchup that tries to run at her. With three charges of your ultimate, you can pretty much force anybody off of you. Oil Slick can just stop people running away at your tracks so you can catch up to them. You're very safe with your entire kit. You kite really easy. People try to chase you with your Oil Slick Flamethrower slash what's it called? Your ultimate combo. Smokescreen also makes it impossible to chase you. Like, you are so safe. Also, your build's really fast. Your weapon's a 2-zoner. This character has it all, and I could not recommend it enough. Next on the list is the boy himself, Shoichi. I personally think he's A tier. Is definitely a type of character where it's like you really want to one trick him. There's only like really 2 people on NA who did anything with him, which is myself and ECU, and it's kind of nice because we have a big discrepancy in ping, which is the big thing about Shoichi. A lot of people talk about is that if you don't have like really low ping, you kind of forced into a certain playstyle, which is what I did. I play with like 60 to 80 ping depending on the day, and I had to play with what's called a very specific playstyle. But recently ECU discovered a route, which is the factory route. I'm sure you guys have seen a ton. The factory chapel forest route. The good thing there is that it gives Shoichi a lot of agency, and it gives him a routing alternative that helps him out a lot. You know, before he was stuck onto temple, which why I kind of rated him really low, but now that he has like more options available to him, I've put him higher up in the list overall. The issue that Shoichi does have is that his scaling is pretty weak if you don't get a lot of transitional pieces. And unlike other characters, it's not really just like mithril. You definitely need to get like stuff like a cabana, and you need like a Schrodinger's box, and you need a Scotty. So you need a lot of things working out for you, and you definitely do have a lot of bad matchups throughout the game. Like, I guess to the point where you fight a bunch of people and you're like, man, even though I killed a lot, I'm still not as strong as these other guys. So he's an early game monster, falls off late, routing became a lot better, and his damage overall is really good once you've learned to master it. But definitely a really hard character to learn properly and requires a lot of games on him. He's definitely not your pick up and play character. Silvia, kind of similar to Shoichi in terms of not pick up and play, but I do think she is A+. So one thing to know here is that pistol skill is insane, very similar to, you know, you may notice a trend here: pistol skill, pistol skill, pistol skill. Pistol skill is really good at just being really safe. Sylvia is really good at, well, just doing that, being really safe, and she's really good on the chase too. With recent changes to Sylvia, her rank 2 and rank 3 ult pretty much have no cooldown. Well, rank 3 ult literally has no cooldown, and you get to run away from any engagement for free. Her late game has gotten a little bit better, and her early game damage has fallen down a bit, but it's still high enough to where you can just kill people if you run into them. So Sylvia, not much has changed too much despite all of the changes to her. She kind of still has a very similar play pattern, just with now of a stronger late game, slightly weaker early game, but it doesn't matter too much. Next on the list is Emma. Tier S broken. This character is insane. I would like to say I think she is the best character in the game, but this is on order, so I just had to preface. I do think she's the best character in the game. This character has it all. You cannot chase her. She can chase you. She has an infinite amount of options in her kit. She has a ton of reroutes with different shurikens. She just is really SP reliant and needs to build SP pots, and that's kind of her only weakness. Pretty much any matchup in the game she can potentially win. She can run away from any matchup that she thinks she's not strong enough to take. She has really high scaling, and if you just land her ability, she gets free cooldown reduction on top of it. It's so crazy how strong this character is. I am waiting for Nimble Neuron to hit her over the head with a nerf pad already, because my god, she is crazy. Also, Caltrops makes it so you're even safer, and they do a ton of damage already, and you pretty much have a guaranteed way of using Caltrops in your kit, which is just, you know, polymorphing somebody and just throwing Caltrops at them, or you could just R on top of somebody and just throwing Caltrops on somebody, or if someone's chasing you, you can press RW, they get sucked into the hat, and you can just throw Caltrops on top of somebody, and they're now forced to tank a full combo from you, and you are in the safest position possible with another Hyejin level dash to escape from any situation. This character is insane. Really only weakness, I guess, is the mana part and the fact that she can't run away pre-6. That's about it, but generally not dying pre-6 anyways. Lenox, probably around like C/B tier. Mostly C tier due to the fact that she's weakened in some matchups, well, a lot of matchups, and the problem is that her early game strength is really high, very similar to Axe, while having a better weapon active than Axe, having access to the whip skill. Her damage, her scaling is not too hot, it's really bad, and her routing, there's only really one way to route her. You have to go Avenue to the Beach, and that's the only way you can choose on your weapon right now. If she were to get different routing options, she could honestly move up to B, potentially A, because she's been getting a lot of buffs recently, and I'm sure she's really happy with that. Scotty's getting buffed, Glacial Shoes got buffed, her her Bloody Ninetail Whip got buffed, which is, you know, a transitional item if you're able to get it, but overall she herself has received buffs, but I don't think she's doing anything yet in solos to make her much of a threat. You really only like have in the back of your mind that Lenox is in the game when you see her at like the first tree. If like, you know, she's always going to be at that first tree of life, and if she's in the game, you just have to respect it. She's probably stronger than you at that point, and you just have to walk away. Aside from that, not too great. Rozzi. Rozzi, A+. You may be noticing. If not S tier, A+. Pistol skill, pistol, yeah, you gotta get the movement now. But the difference between Rozzi and everybody else here is she's a duelist. Her chase is actually not the greatest and really relies on that pistol skill to chase somebody down. But if she's able to touch you, if she's able to get in your face, she can blow you up before you can do anything. If she's able to land that ultimate on you, you need to escape or she will kill you. Her routing, not that many options to it, but generally in zones that aren't very contested. So it's not that hard to get Rozzi's build online anyways. If her zones can become more contested, she would be forced to reroute. The options are there, they're just not as viable as just going like Electron Blaster. So overall, Rozzi, good character, amazing character. Korea has definitely been sleeping on this character for a while. They finally picked her up recently, and she has been crushing it on the ladder. Especially, I think like Proster and like rank 3 NA or something, playing like only Rozzi. So we kind of have, you know, the proof to in NA to show that Rozzi is really, really good. Luke. I'm sorry, guys. He's not S tier, God tier. Luke's the best character in the game. He's actually just A tier. Really high damage, very unsafe, doesn't exactly have a lot of potential to running away. But the thing about running away is you generally don't have to run away if you could just stat check your opponent. So what Luke does have the other characters don't is that his early game spike is insanely dominant. If he's able to just get his weapons and build online, you really can't fight a Luke in melee range. And even if you're a ranged character, if he lands a Q on you, he's able to get a couple auto attacks into his E to slow you into a few more auto attacks to just force you off of him. Also, Bat Skill does work as a kind of niche escape tool, and he's also has just really high base movement speed and base tankiness, so he has the potential snowball. And of course, as you probably might have guessed, he has really good transitional items. Monkey King Bar, Mithril Armor, Chinese Opera Mask. If he's able to get these 3 items online, he can just kill you. So, and there's nothing you can do about it. He can just walk at you. So Luke, definitely a really strong character, just not the S tier. Hey, like I seen the Reddit post about him saying, oh god, this character is the best character. And no, he's just a pub stomper, and if you think he's broken, there's a good chance he's probably just pub stomping you, and you really got to start respecting his options a little more about what he can do. So generally, you know, maybe sidestep a bit. It'll help you out a lot. But generally, Luke is okay. Not insane, just okay. Cathy. I personally think she's S tier. I say A+ to S. So Cathy's late game transition is the best in the game. Very, very safe melee character. Her passive gives her a ton of movement speed. Her Q can dash to animals, which does help out a little bit with having agency. Her Sutcher is able to root/stun people on an escape, and she can ground enemies, and her chase is really strong. Mizroy, which that's going to be what the next video is going to be about, is me talking of Mizroy, about what the routing potential with Cathy is and how he played and how he hit rank 1 immortal, first person in NA to hit immortal with Cathy only. He explained to me how he did it, and that video is going to be out soon. Like I said earlier, make sure to, well, sub to the channel if you haven't. If you want to know when that goes live. Should help you, all you aspiring Cathy mains out a ton. He also got some really spicy builds that he's planning to whip out with the new rank season coming out relatively soon. But yeah, Cathy, very strong, very safe. The biggest thing here is her ultimate is unstoppable. It has a massive heal swing on it. It makes her unstoppable, and it also is just an insane dueling tool. So something you'll probably see a lot is that he'll go for like Wick Line, just grab all the components from it and just ultimate out, dagger skill, and run, and there's no character in the game that can chase that. Yes, your ultimate's down, you can't fight, which does suck, but now you end up with every component you need for your transitional pieces, which is Frag Rock, Chinese Opera Mask, and Mithril Armor. You might notice a trend with these items, they're really good for attack, auto attack oriented characters. But yeah, and of course dagger skill also makes her incredibly safe. So really safe character overall. So good. In our last few here, not too much to cover. We have Adela. Adela's been buffed a little bit over time. I've been playing her a lot. I know a lot of people think she's like here. I think she's like here, maybe almost pushing it A. I do think she's B tier though. I think right now she's B tier, possibly A. A lot of people in NA have been like playing around with like attack power based Adela builds, which is really good. She scales really well with it, but she does need to put in a lot more work than pretty much any other AMP character in the game to really get her damage. She needs to land a lot of stuff, and against people at the higher ranks, it's going to be really hard to just land that stuff for free. That's been true since day one, and that's not going away anytime soon. But if she's able to get a full combo on you, she is going to chunk you pretty much into nearly literally near death range, if not already one-shotting you. So pretty good, but her routing is slow. You get your weapon really late because of Mistletoe, and because of that, you're just a little bit behind on mastery, so you really do need to take some skirmishes to catch back up. But overall, she's okay. Not amazing, not bad, just okay. Bernice, sorry man, maybe unplayable. Okay, so the reason Bernice isn't unplayable and like Aya is that his damage is high and he can take some fights as some portions of the game, but he has so many issues. He has mana issues. His chasing is not very good. His W isn't really an ability with those traps. Your combo is mostly gone. You can ult somebody and place a trap, but it has to be immediately after your ultimate or it will not double root, which sucks. You can only chase if you're chasing somebody. You have literally zero escape. Your only escape is just ulting somebody and running the hell away. He is not very strong at all. Also, his damage is it's okay. It's really not that great, but he's just kind of like a worse Nadine. And he also has sniper skill, which isn't very good. He's definitely in need of some buffs and some changes, but right now I probably wouldn't recommend picking him up, especially for the rank season that's going to come up. And lastly, we have our newest girl in the block, Barbara. So, had she not been nerfed, I'd say yes tier. Honestly, I might still say yes tier. I think she's really broken. This character is super, super strong. All she does is just like blast you, and she creates an area of denial and really hard to just fight her. I have seen this character one-shot people countless times already. She's really safe if you get on top of her with bat skill along with her E, and she can chunk you super easy. So she mitigates melees for free, but against range matchups she does have a little bit of a harder time. But even then, if she's able to burn their escape option, well, she could just blast you, RW, she just blasts you. So insanely strong character. Her routing is really good. She has a ton of routing reroutes. This character is insane, but I do think her scaling isn't amazing, and sometimes if you are against characters that can run away from you, it's kind of hard to get those kills secured. It's just pretty much nobody can ever fight you, which does make her pretty broken. And I think that does probably warrant the S tier, but I think maybe just because of some of the scaling issues and because it's hard for you to pick up kills at certain stages of the game, that she is kind of just A+, not S tier. But that's more of a prediction. We don't know yet until, you know, Season 2 starts and we get to see what Barbara is actually capable of. But right now, A+, super strong character, highly recommend her. And yeah, I expect actually to see some more nerfs from her. But I think that's going to be it for me today, guys. That's the tier list. That is my current tier list for solos in the Tournament Return Black Scroll. And like I mentioned earlier, if you want to see me cover, I don't know, maybe like a weapons tier list or a solo / or duo / squads tier list, let me know down in the comments below. I would really appreciate that feedback. And I did see the feedback last time about how you guys didn't like how I had the previous tier list. Well, we changed it up and I made sure we had explanations for everything, so you know exactly why a character is where and what a character in a certain tier means. But yeah, if you do enjoy the video, you know, make sure to sub to the channel and leave a like down below. Help me out a ton with the algorithm, and you know, just show the content to more people, and it makes me, you know, a little happier. You know, serotonin goes woo, and we post more videos. It's just kind of that easy. And yeah, see y'all next time. Appreciate it.